Well, took 8 years, but here we go. While Mario Kart 64 might have been the first Mario Kart game I played, I think Mario Kart Wii might be my favorite entry in the series. For a long time I had been partial to Double Dash, as I loved the team switching mechanics and felt it had an especially strong track selection, despite there only being 16 tracks, but hey, quality over quantity. That said, having come back to Double Dash recently, I felt that the karts don't feel particularly great to drive compared to other kart races I've played. It feels somewhat loose, slippery, and weirdly bouncy. Like, maybe in some possible reality, the situation is that I just suck? Yeah, well, you know, like, I'm not bad, I'm just built different.
Oh, you stink!
Yeah, I might need to give Double Dash a proper revisit at some point. But, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, Mario Kart Wii. Look, if you're watching this list, you've played this game, right? You know what it brought. Bikes, the trick system, character weight classes, and the most expanded online yet, with features like 12-player online races, leaderboards.
I'm gonna kill myself! Wow. I'm going to kill myself, and it's your fault!
Well, at least we still have Mario Kart 2. So you're probably wondering why in 2021 am I making a video about Mario Kart Wii, specifically a track ranking. Well, it's because 8 years ago I made a video about my top 32 tracks, but I had only gotten around to making a single part of that list. Here's a clip from that absolute gem if you want to see it.
Music is just boring, and it can get really crazy here sometimes, making it really hard for you to get first place. The track is just shit.
As you may be shocked to hear, the list never reached its climax. Sad, since they usually come quick for me.
Comedy gold! Relationship comedy!
But hey, let's give it another shot, yeah? Yeah, I don't think I need to go through the usual trivial BS when making a list like this. I mean, look, if you disagree with my opinion, then you're wrong and you should probably die. Sound fair? Anyways, Mario Kart Wii tracks. Let's rank them. Well, we gotta start somewhere, and unfortunately for Shy Guy Beach, that means the bottom of the list. Now, I honestly don't really hate this course as much as I used to. I think I played that up previously to make it seem worse than it was, like it was a Nostalgia Critic skit or something, especially with those crabs. Anyways, even though I don't really hate this course anymore, I still think it's kind of a boring track, and it's not really fun to drive on. The crabs are more of a cumbersome obstacle than they are a fun one. The cannons are sort of a non-entity, and the terrain is just more annoying to drive on than it is anything else. You could use a vehicle with good off-road stats to kind of bypass a lot of that issue with the terrain, but it's still doesn't really negate the fact that the course is just kind of boring. The coastal tropical island setting isn't a terrible idea for a track, and I like the music because it kind of has like nice chill vibes. But the plain layout, drab presentation, and just kind of irritating enemies make this one just not very enjoyable. Yoshi Falls. Damn, bro, you like courses shaped like a chicken nugget? There's just not really a whole lot to say when it comes to Yoshi Falls. I mean, you know, it's basically just a glorified circle. Oh, I just realized, it's a NASCAR track. I mean, it's fine, it's inoffensive enough, there's just not a whole lot going on. I mean, there's boost beds that you can boost along, ramps to do tricks off of, and there's some waterfalls that you can like drift across or use a mushroom on to your advantage, but still, there's not really a whole lot going on in this course. I don't hate driving on it, but it just doesn't really stick out in my head, and it's kind of forgettable. It's not awful, but it's just kind of mediocre. Only 30 more to go. Christ. Sure bet this one would have been so far down the list. When I was younger, I didn't mind this course all that much, but coming back to it for this list, I found Sherbet Land to be a bit of a drag to race on, whenever it came up during races. I'll give the course some credit for its music, as it has such a nostalgic whimsy to it that gives the track some warmth, and I also enjoy the section in the ice cage with dodging the penguins and trying to drive around the ice pillars. However, a majority of the track is spent driving on open ice, with little of note to mention. There are a couple of baby penguins to dodge in the track every once in a while, and there's a section where you can continue driving straight on the ice, or if you want to get real ballsy, there's a ramp you can jump off of.
Nice car.
I don't think there's any truly terrible tracks in this game, and much like the last two courses, I feel Sherbet Land suffers because of what it lacks more than what it does. Because it does a couple things well, I just feel like there isn't a whole lot to it overall. Ghost Valley 2 is a simple but fairly enjoyable track. It won't last much longer than a minute, but it can be fun to nail the corners, and that one gap that's kind of tricky to land can save you a couple seconds on the track if you nail it. The atmosphere is suitably spooky with dark lighting and booze flying all about, and the music... That's weird. Right, whatever, okay. Anyways, where was I? Yeah, so, okay, seriously, what is that? Right, what's going on? Is there anybody here?
Yes, it is I, your evil doppelganger, DankFrank.
DankFrank.
Yes, and we will have a great battle.
Is that right?
Yeah, no, I'm not doing this fucking... I'm not doing this 2011 countdown nostalgia critic bullshit. Get out of here.
No,
Fuck
wait,
off.
we are all curses. And we could have had such a great rivalry.
Well, that was the DankFrank arc in my Mario Kart ranked tracks video. So, yeah, that's Ghost Valley 2. A decent course that I don't have a whole lot to say about, but it's pretty fun while it lasts. I'm ranking a lot of the courses that have less to talk about lower, just because I feel they're not as memorable and a bit more forgettable. They're not awful. As I said, I don't think there's any awful courses in this game, but some of these are going lower on the list. But that's Ghost Valley 2. It's alright, but nothing special. Bowser Castle 3, the other GBA track in this game, again suffers for what it lacks rather than what it does have to offer. It might seem like I dislike simplistic tracks when looking at this list so far, but really it's not about the tracks being simplistic, it's all about what they do with that basic design when creating the tracks. When it comes to Bowser Castle 3, and I think it's due to its origins as a Super Circuit track, there's something that makes it feel almost fan or custom made as a 3D track, and while it's fine to race on, I think there were more interesting GBA tracks that they could have translated into this game, like Cheeseland, Yoshi Desert, or Ribbon Road as examples. Hell, even Bowser Castle 4 probably would have been a more interesting choice with its lava geysers and just more interesting layout overall. And also, I'm just really not a fan of the color palette. I don't find the gray and orange make for a particularly pleasing looking course. Also, Bowser Castle 3 is one of the longer tracks in the game, usually running me just a bit under 4 minutes, and the color palette as well as the bland backgrounds with the static Bowser castles just makes for an uninteresting course in terms of visuals. I'm making it seem like I hate this track, but I really don't. I just don't think it's that interesting visually. I still have fun nailing the trick jumps, and I enjoy avoiding the thwomps and drifting around the tight corners. I do feel there were better tracks to draw from Super Circuit than this, but this is still a decent enough course. Wow, just reviewed a whole track deadpan. Sometimes I surprise myself. Desert Hills, oh man, what's there to say about Desert Hills?
Nothing.
Yeah, kinda feeling like it. Ghost Valley 2, Bowser Castle 3, Desert Hills, probably some other courses coming up in the list. Congratulations to these courses that aren't bad but are bland enough not to give me much to say. Give yourself a pat on the back, or at least a cosmic sort of one. You know, since you're a racetrack in a video game. This list is going to take forever if I keep detouring like this. Right, Desert Hills, yeah, it's fine, I guess. The track has pokies and potaboos. Yo, he leaping though. There's this section with a bunch of corners to drift around that I guess is kind of fun. I've never been too huge on desert themed race courses. I know I mentioned Yoshi Desert earlier for a potential GBA track, but that was more just because I think it would have been more interesting than Bowser Castle 3, but generally desert courses just don't really stand out in my head all that much. Like, thinking of all the kart racers that I've played over the years, I just can't really think of any desert courses I really love off the top of my head. Dry Desert from Double Dash is pretty fun, I guess, but even that one I don't love. Of course, that's more of a personal preference thing, but I also just think Desert Hills is, you know, a bit too simple. It's not a terrible track, but just not particularly memorable, and I just don't find myself revisiting it that often. So, yeah, it's fine. Music's kind of a bop, though. Na 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 na. Okay, so, look. If I didn't have a lot to say regarding some of the previous tracks, then I really don't have a lot to say on Mario Circuit 3. It's a very straightforward track, but that said, I think it's a pretty fun course for what it is. The corners are fun to drift around, there's a neat shortcut to boost through with a mushroom, and while the course isn't really a looker, it's a pretty one-to-one translation of the Super Mario Kart track in 3D. That said, it really isn't all that interesting visually. Hey bro. What are your thoughts on colored block? I've never really been a huge Super Mario Kart fan, but I do enjoy this course. It's nothing too special, but it's fun and it's a decent addition to the track list. So we finally reached a track that is original to this game, and it's the first one. Luigi Circuit is a perfectly functional introductory track, but I wouldn't really say it's much more interesting than that. There are some basic corners to drift around, there's a long corner with some boost pads, and there's even a small shortcut that can be taken with a shroom, and that's kinda the extent of what this course offers. The course looks pretty nice, I like the big Luigi statue and Cheep float, and the music sounds suitably energetic and cheery for a first course, and yeah. This is a perfectly functional first track. It's not bad. And yeah. Get ready, because you won't believe what I'm gonna say about this track. Dry Ruins is, in fact, another desert track. You don't have to tell me I'm cursed with knowledge.
Barney monkey.
Now, I like this track a lot more than Desert Ruins, to be fair, even if it isn't that much further up the list, but that's mostly due to the track having more going on, and with the layout of the track just being a lot more interesting. For one, it's a much cooler looking track than Desert Hills, with the giant Yoshi Sphinx and little stone pillars dotted around the opening area of the track, and the titular ruins have a neat ancient atmosphere to them that makes the track stand out aesthetically. You still have enemies like the Pokeboos and the bats, of course. Also, that part where you drive into the ruins is actually pretty cool, I like that bit. The corners can be tricky to nail, but are nice to get the hang of, and the ending segment where you leap out of the ruins back onto the last few corners of the track is a pretty good finish to the course. Dry Ruins is mostly this low, really just because I'm not a big desert tracks guy. I don't think this is a bad course at all, it's just not one of my favorites, and isn't one of the first ones I think of when I think of Mario Kart Wii, but this is a good course overall, just not one of my favorites. If I could give the course one thing, it's this. Music goes really hard. I don't know what it is with desert tracks, but they got really good music. Mario Raceway is a track that I enjoy more out of nostalgia than it being really one that I like for its design or visuals, really. That's not to say Raceway is a bad track. I wouldn't have it this high if I thought it was bad, but again, it's another one that's sort of simplistic. The track mostly consists of fairly basic corners to drift around, and there's also this pipe that you can do tricks off of. There's also piranha plants littered around the track to avoid as obstacles, and that's pretty much it. This is a very basic and simplistic track. It's nothing too crazy, but I enjoy racing on this one mostly due to it being a track from Mario Kart 64, so there's some nostalgia value there, and I also think the track design is pretty solid, if not too awe-inspiring. To be fair, there were probably better choices for Mario Kart 64 tracks, like maybe Royal Raceway, or Toad's Turnpike, or maybe even Yoshi Valley, but still, this one's fine for what it is. Song's a banger, to be fair. There's a lot of good music in this game. I'm not really someone who can describe music in a good way, I guess, but I don't know, this one, it's just really groovy, really funky. It's got a nice, like, retro kind of, I guess, vibe to it. I like it a lot. Next up, we have Peach
You think this is funny?
In a cosmic sort of way, yes. Peach was never one of my favorite Double Dash tracks, but I've actually warmed to it on return, because while it isn't the most complex track in the world, it is a nice, chill track to race on, and I really love the music and visuals as they give off a very pleasant atmosphere. The tropical beach setting, the relaxing getaway sounding music, it's a really just nice track to race on. And look, maybe that's not the most exciting for a kart racer, but there's nothing wrong with a more relaxing track after some intense racing. And with that said, you still gotta look out for those cataquacks, these guys. Hey Lois, my wife, remember the time I was playing as Bowser and this happened? Boy, this is worse than the time I was sus. So that's Peach Beach. Not the most complex of courses, but it's very enjoyable for what it is, and I think it's earned its place on the list as maybe not being like a, incredibly top-tier track, but it's pretty good for what it is, I think. DK's Jungle Parkway is another track that isn't too crazy and feels like a calmer track in comparison to some of the others in this game, though of course that can depend on item RNG and the CPU or human players. I will say this, the kind of pissy color palette of the sky and the water and stuff, it always looked weird or off to me. I never really, I get it's supposed to be a sunset kind of vibe, but it always just looked a little weird to me, especially in this game. I will say that the music is very unique and that it sounds more atmospheric and less melodic, though there is still sort of a song in there as the beats form a coherent whole. I hope I'm not talking out of my ass here, I'm not really a music person. The track also has a few memorable set pieces, like the massive jump over the lake, similar to Royal Raceway, also from Mario Kart 64, and I also like the section with the bridge leading into the final cave area before you reach the finish line. So yeah, this is a pretty solid track overall. Not one of the absolute best in the game, but one that I feel has no major faults, and it's pretty solid throughout. Mario Circuit from Double Dash is another pretty decent track from that game that wouldn't be among my top tracks, but is still a pretty good course regardless. The music is full of energy and very chirpy, the visuals are sort of what you would expect from a Mario Circuit course, with grassy plains, piranha plants strewn about, and a huge chain chomp to avoid on the climb up after the second corner, a la Mario 64's Bob-omb Battlefield. There's a tunnel to go through, there's a star bridge to cross, and there's also some Goombas to avoid on the final stretch of the track. Of the Mario Circuits we have gotten, I think this is a pretty good one. There is a better one in this game, but I still really enjoy this one. GCN Mario Circuit is a perfectly enjoyable version of the track. Nothing incredible, but a good addition to the track list. Moo Moo Meadows being one of the very first tracks in the game is another more straightforward course, but it is a very fun one. Avoiding the cows, nailing the trick jumps, and drifting around the surprisingly tight corners for an early track There's a lot of the simple joys of just playing Mario Kart Wii that are present here. Not to mention the last section, where there's a choice between doing a trick jump and landing somewhere in the field, maybe with a boost, though it's possible you might just land on the grass, slowing you down.
Oh hey! You suck!
Or you can forgo the jump completely and just try to snake around the corners and try to avoid the jumping Monty Moles. This is a fairly simple course with small samples of something more complex, which I appreciate, and it's a good sign of things to come when playing it for the first time in Mario Kart Wii. Essentially what I'm saying is, Moo Moo Meadows walked so the later tracks could run, or something along those lines. Daisy Circuit is pretty good. It's pretty much the epitome of a track that's like, you know, not amazing, but it's pretty good. Daisy Circuit kind of reminds me of Peach Beach because it has that very warm and inviting color palette and like vacation getaway style music. You know, the course looks really vibrant and it has a lot of life. It gives the course a sort of just nice vibe. And the course just has a really pleasant atmosphere that permeates throughout the entire track. The track design isn't too crazy or inventive. There are 2 roundabouts to drive around with statues of Daisy and Luigi, both as babies and adults. As well as that, after the first few corners, there's also a small flight of stairs with boost pads that you can trick jump off of for a small boost, which is pretty fun. And then you have the last section of the course where you drift around the lighthouse towards the finish line, which makes for a pretty good final stretch, I think. And that's Daisy Circuit. Pretty fun track that I don't really have any complaints with. It's not incredible in any way, but it's a good track that I enjoy coming back to whenever I pop in Mario Kart Wii. I've always had a soft spot for Peach Gardens. While it's never ranked in the upper echelon of Mario Kart courses for me, it has a certain charm that makes it enjoyable to come back to. This is another course that just has a very pleasant and cozy atmosphere. Visually, it's quite vibrant with the lush greenery strewn all around the track, the white picket fences and gates that give the course that sort of like royal feeling, and not to mention the giant grassy sculpture seen in the first roundabout. The music also has a sort of like homely but luxurious sound to it. It's pretty fitting to the track, I think. The chain chomps are also out here in full force, with 1 on the first roundabout of the track, and 3 of them moving around the hedges in the grassy maze section, which are pretty fun to avoid. There are also some Monty Moles to avoid towards the end of the course, so I'd say, you know, watch out for them. Oh, bastards. Peach Gardens is just another pretty good track that doesn't really have like any major issues, kind of like a few of the ones before it. I like this one for its atmosphere, the obstacles are pretty fun to avoid, and I think the track design is pretty good overall. And that's pretty much the gist. Solid course. Man, it started a lot that time, what the fuck. So, maybe this one's a bit of a...
Hot take.
You shut the fuck up! You shut the fuck up!
Not to say that I, like, dislike it, I mean, far from it, it's still halfway up the rankings, but it's never really been a favorite for me, and I'm aware I've been saying that for a lot of these further down tracks. I like the tense, fast-paced music, as it certainly fits the atmosphere of a course where everything is beginning to crumble, and a volcano is raging throughout the entirety of the track, coming to a head in lap 3 when even segments of the track start to break off, which is a pretty cool detail. The visuals, while fitting, I do find a bit drab. The colors feel more muted than they should be, I feel, with a lot of brown and grey that reminds me of a lot of big-budget video games from the same era as Mario Kart Wii. I will say that the track design itself is certainly good, and it's a fun challenge drifting the tight corners, trying not to fall into the lava, and avoiding the photo boost towards the end of each lap. Still, personally, this is just not a track I love. It's definitely a good course, though, just not like a top-tier one for me. It's still fun, though, and one course I was happy to see return in Mario Kart 8. Yeah, I know I put Mario Circuit over Grumble Volcano. I have bad opinions, you don't have to tell me. Mario Circuits are generally some of the more vanilla tracks one can find in a Mario Kart game, and while I wouldn't say this version made specifically for Mario Kart Wii bucks the trend, I think it's a really enjoyable version of the course. The course has a suitably bright and cheery atmosphere with a very bright color palette, with tons of greenery with the trees strewn all around. There are also plenty of Mushroom Kingdom denizens littered about on the fences in the opening stretches of the track, giving the course some extra life. The chain chomp from GCN Mario Circuit also returns here smack dab dab in the middle of the course. You can either take the left path, where he'll greet you with open mouth, or you can take the right shortcut path with a mushroom where there's a boost ramp. Or you can just skip both and snake your way through with a golden mushroom like I did here. The music here is the same as Luigi Circuit, which is expected, as other Mario Kart games, such as Double Dash, have had the same music in their circuit tracks. This is just a solid, early course that's always enjoyable for me to go back to. Maybe not the most intense or creative in terms of track design, but it's plenty of fun to race on and a great iteration of a staple Mario Kart track. Number 14 is Moonview Highway. I wanna ride it all night long. Oh yeah. If you're going my way, I wanna drive it all night long. I like Moonview Highway, it's pretty fun. It's kind of a weird track because I hated it when I first started playing Mario Kart Wii, but the more I played it, the more I ended up liking it, and as of making this list, I honestly really enjoyed it at this point. This course has a cool, urban, inner-city vibe to it that sort of evokes a lot of what Mushroom City from Double Dash did to an even greater extent, as I feel this track goes into that feel even harder with its funky music, the sounds of the cars passing by, and the danger of driving around them as they have no regard for their safety and have no apprehension in running you over. Wait, what? Oh god, Toad, look out! Dodging the traffic and working your way through this cool city is what makes the track as fun as it is, however. There's a cool boost ramp you can take on an upper part of the track's opening section, but be careful, as it's very possible to trick off to an untimely demise or to have an accident that no insurance could cover. Sorry, Toad. I really love the inner city section with all the billboards and advertising, the bright lights littered all around, and the long winding tunnel at the end. This is just a really cool track and is one of my favorites in the game from a visual and audio standpoint. The cars can sometimes be a pain to deal with, especially when you don't see one coming, but I guess that is the point when it's coming to a bustling, busy, and overcrowded city. I mean, as we saw, Toad dearly paid the price for that. Man, kind of shit in Moonview Highway. Bowser's Castle from Mario Kart 64 is an iconic track that makes its transition to the Mario Kart Wii very well. The dark atmosphere, the ominous and unnerving music, to the track's design with many obstacles thrown your way to avoid, the original track is still very good in its Wii incarnation. The music in particular sets the mood very well, as it has a very chilling tone to it, with the sort of dark operatic singing and the constant low humming in the background of the song. It's effectively dark, and gets across that this track is not like the others. The course is also one of the darkest in the game, and maybe even the series, as the hallways of the castle are very dimly lit, with dull brown walls and bronze statues of Bowser himself spewing fire. Bit full of yourself, to be honest, mate. The corners are tight, and the thwomps will crush you if you aren't careful. There's also lava to contend with if you are unfortunate enough to fly off any ledges, as Bowser sure has no qualms with surrounding his living space with nothing but endless bodies of lava. You do you, man. This course is a stone cold classic, and one that's very well represented in Mario Kart Wii. Just a really good course that's done justice here. The only knock against it is that sometimes the colors of Mario Kart Wii can make the course look a little washed out at times, but it's not a major issue, and this is still a very good track overall. Before Toad met his end at the hands of a very aggressive driver, God rest his soul, he was able to give us this gem of a course. Toad's Factory is a great early course in Mario Kart Wii and ramps things up a lot as the finisher to the game's first cup. The factory setting makes for a fun and very unique course, and then we get elements like conveyor belts, these big stompy boys, and these boxes that just kind of fall off the belts they're on into the ocean.
Oh, don't you talk about my boxes! I like boxes!
The music has a very fun beat and is very catchy. It also captures the idea of it being related to a factory and how the beats hit in a way that sound very defined, which makes it sound kind of like factory produced, if that makes sense at all. Probably not, I'm talking out of my butt again. The course itself has plenty of obstacles to contend with, and the big stompy boys, as mentioned, riding the conveyor belts, not hitting the boxes, and hitting the timing just right on the boost pads on the final stretch of the track. It's quite an involved course for one so early in the game, and that's what makes it so fun, especially at this point. Toad's Factory is a great early course, and is also quite memorable as one of the tracks I first think of when thinking of Mario Kart Wii. It's only not higher, as I just don't feel it's one of the absolute best of the best personally, but it's still a very good course for what it is. Waluigi Stadium is a bit of a banger. Coming over from Double Dash, this is one of the high-quality tracks that comes to mind when I think of that game, and it's just as great here. While Wario Coliseum was perhaps a bit more unique with its layout and two-lap structure, Waluigi's own stadium is also an excellent course in its own right and totally holds its own. The course looks pretty cool with its sunset sky and massive crowds surrounding the stadium as they watch the race with excitement. I really like how when you perform a trick, the crowd audibly cheers in the background, which is just a neat detail. There are tons of ramps to jump off of, and the corners are pretty tight, especially the second last one on the last section of the track. There's also the fun half-pipe section with the big wooden piranha plants and the trick jump ramps, which are fun to take advantage of. Waluigi Stadium is just a really enjoyable track with great set pieces, fun opportunities for tricks, nice visuals, and a catchy song. Gotta say, Waluigi hit it out of the park with this one. What could he do next? Maybe? Mario Kart Wii's iteration of Rainbow Road, another one of the series' staple tracks, ranks as one of the better takes on the classic course. As the final track of the game's original courses, it's a decently tough course to race through, with sharp corners, many trick opportunities that can lead to one plummeting off the track if they aren't careful, and many boost pads that can give the player speed but may make it harder to stay on the track. The music is also a nice rendition of the classic Rainbow Road theme, though it's not my favorite compared to most other renditions. Still good in its own right, just quite different. I do feel it lacks the warmth and emotional range of the Nintendo 64 and Double Dash versions, but that's just me. It's certainly not bad by any means. The visuals, however, are quite lovely, with a view of the Earth from the background below that really gives the course a nice sense of scale to the star bits and star warp taken directly from Mario Galaxy, to even the planets that are visible in the stars. This course really does capture
the exaggerated swagger
of driving on a road made of rainbows in space. This is a great version of a classic Mario Kart course with a fun track design, great visuals, good music, and it's just a nice final test of the skills the player has learned up until this point. Great track. DK's Snowboard Cross is just great. It's sort of like a snowy version of Double Dash's DK Mountain, which we'll get to in a bit, but not quite yet. In that you're shot out of a massive cannon at the beginning of the track, and the rest of it is like a downhill kart race through trick jumps, boost pads, and snow, and it's just as fun as that sounds. Like Waluigi Stadium, there's also a half-pipe section with trick jumps, boost pads, and patches of snow to avoid, along with some Shy Guys pulling off some of the sickest snowboarding tricks I've ever seen. Move over, Sean White. Step aside, Sean Palmer. Shy Guy will be the next face of snowboarding. Visually, the course looks pretty sweet, with the entire mountain covered in snow, with snowy trees, cabins, and a statue of Mario looking pretty slick on a snowboard, giving the Shy Guys a run for their money. Also, the music is pretty chill.
I hope you die in a fire!
With a neat snowy look, fun track design, great set pieces, and some gnarly Shy Guys, this Kong sure has made one hell of a track. Wow, that was awful. Jesus. Wario's Gold Mine is another course that I would pretty much consider a classic at this point. Wario, the greedy bastard, has an entire mine filled with gold, minecarts, bats,
lamp oil, rope, bombs,
that also just so happen to work perfectly as a makeshift race course. This is quite a difficult track for one that resides in only the second cup of the game, as it can be rather easy to fall off the rail tracks due to the fairly tight corners and by getting hit by the minecarts, but it's a fun challenge and a well-designed course. Avoiding the bats, weaving around the carts, and drifting the sharp turns is fun, and there's a pretty neat shortcut to access by timing the minecart paths so that you can get in before getting hit by a cart and taking a tumble into the depths below. The course looks great with a fun design with the track feeling like an amusement park ride from start to finish, from the sudden bats to the minecarts to the dips and peaks on the railroad tracks that really make the course a fun ride. not to mention the very energetic and bouncy music that accompanies the track. Wario's Gold Mine is just a great ride the whole way through, with a fun track design, fun, energetic music, great visuals, and just overall being an incredibly fun track to race through. Delfino Square is just really pleasant to drive through. It just makes me feel good, and maybe that's a weird thing for a Mario Kart track, but there's just something so nice about the relaxing atmosphere of Delfino Square that even 100 spiny shells couldn't destroy. The track itself isn't anything too outrageous, with some tight but fairly manageable corners and a fun boost pad or trick jump bridge section towards the end of the course that varies each lap slightly. There's also a pretty tight shortcut by the market area of the track that's tough but satisfying to pull off successfully. Really though, it's the atmosphere that makes this one for me. It's just very nice and wholesome 100 the whole way through, with a sort of autumn feeling to the track as well as a vibrant color palette with lots of green and yellow on the course. The music also just has a really lovely and homely quality to it that gives a nice, that extra cozy feeling that makes it so nice to drive through. What can I say, man? This one's just pleasant. I can't say too much else, but the track design is pretty great, the shortcut's fun to pull off, and the course looks and sounds lovely. It's just a really great track. Mushroom Gorge is another one of the game's earliest courses, but is quite splendid for once early in the game. While tricks were certainly an element present in Luigi Circuit and Moo Moo Meadows, Mushroom Gorge is the first track that really puts the new trick system to work and makes it really fun to play around with. Bouncing on the mushrooms and pulling off strings of tricks one after another is very satisfying and feels great to pull off, and it really highlights how neat tricks are as an addition to the series and how they add a new layer of speed and timing to the racing. Experimenting with bouncing on the mushrooms is also a lot of fun, but there is a risk in how easy it can be to fall off, so there is a sort of precariousness to the track also, which adds to the enjoyment, I feel. The visuals aren't too inventive, but the mushroom platforms give the course a unique visual identity, and the music is catchy and energetic, while also sounding sort of adventurous, fitting for the setting. This is an excellent course all around, with the mushrooms making for fun terrain to bounce and trick off of, solid visuals and lively music, and a nice early showcase of the trick system. The Wii rendition of Bowser's Castle is one of my favorite versions of the course, up there with the N64 and Mario Kart 8 versions of the track, as being an example of what a Bowser's Castle track should be. The course design is excellent, with some very tight but satisfying corners to drift around, an awesome half-pipe section with a giant mechanical Bowser that spews fireballs, and a really cool final section with giant lava geysers to try and avoid, while also having many opportunities to perform tricks if there's an opening that you can risk. Visually, the course also looks great, with the sort of color palette I wanted from Gumball Volcano, with the course giving off a sinister and dark vibe, while also maintaining a vibrancy to the setting as well, with the dark castle walls and sky contrasting nicely with the luminous lava. The music is fantastic as well, with sounding a little less ominous and dark compared to the N64 version, but still being great in its own right, with it still having a fittingly threatening melody with some melancholy to it as well in some notes. And one neat thing about this track is that it's actually a slowed down version of Maple Treeway. It's almost as if this was a bad future version to that track, which, whether intentional or not, is still a pretty cool detail. Bowser's Castle is an excellent track all around, with a great track layout, awesome visuals, and very cool music. Bowser, you did it good. Bowser's Castle Good Future, or Maple Treeway, is another track I quickly think of when remembering Mario Kart Wii, and for very good reason. It's a really fantastic track. There are some really great set pieces here, with the open area with the wigglers to avoid. Thankfully they don't get too angry here. There's the fun trampoline section that you can trick off of, and there's a three-way section towards the end with slight variations to give the track some variety on each lap. The autumn visuals here are really lovely, and Maple Treeway may be the best looking track in the game, with its vivid colors, luscious leaves, and the shadows here are also on full display, giving the course some nice depth in terms of shading. I love the music also. It's got a very soothing and sweet melody that is very pleasant on the ears. Memorable design, lovely visuals, and a great score make Maple Tree Way an absolute delight. Wonderful course. Coconut Mall is utterly iconic. There's no other way to put it. It's one of the very first tracks that come to mind whenever I think about Mario Kart Wii, and considering its placement, it's because it's a fucking grade A banger. I mean, oh man, the set pieces. The escalators, the water fountains that you can trick off of, that little shortcut to the side of when you first enter the mall, which can either be long or short depending, the bit where you can trick jump off the roof, and the boost pads with the cars, the Mii's in them. Oh, just so memorable, so fun, you know, there's just so many great little set pieces and moments on this track. There's just such a simple joy to Coconut Mall, and that it's an incredibly fun track, but also isn't overly complex. This is a track that just about anyone can play and enjoy, I think, as chaining tricks, pulling off that shortcut, weaving boosts, dodging the cars, it's so fun every time, you know? The atmosphere is lively, and the color scheme of the course fills it with just energy and pure joy. It's one of the most colorful courses in the game, maybe even the series. And the music. Zooey mama. What do I even need to say? It just slaps. Just an incredible track, really. Honestly, I'm kind of bummed it's not a Mario Kart 8, and honestly, I could say that for most of the top 10. This course in HD would just be fantastic, but, you know, hopefully for the next century, whenever Mario Kart 8 Deluxe stops printing money, you know, maybe in like the next century, perhaps. DK Mountain is a classic. As stated previously, I was a huge Double Dash fan as a kid, and for me, this was the quintessential downhill Mario Kart track, and what has been my personal favorite in the series for a very long time. And honestly, it's practically tied for first, but I wanted something to give to make the list less of a cop-out, so DK Mountain ultimately was placed second, which is still very high in mind. Getting shot out of a cannon is such a fun element to this course, and as it was the first one to do it, it goes double for me here. The downhill joyride through the mountains is incredibly fun with trick ramps, boulders falling down on the track alongside you, a fun little shortcut that saves you a corner turn, and a rickety bridge to wheelie on, though it's good to stay more centerways in case other racers arrive to try and push you off. I really adore the visual of seeing the start of the track from the top of the mountain. It gives the course such a great sense of scale and adventure as you make your way down the mountain and make it back to where you started to go and do it all again. The corners are tight, and the boulders add to the peril of scaling down this mighty mountain, making it all the more enjoyable to race through. The visuals suitably the sort of environment that belongs in a Donkey Kong Country game, with much of the course made up of a mixture between grassy and rocky terrain, which of course suits for the natural jungle vibe the course wants to give off. And the music just oozes the sort of upper-class, civilized lifestyle of... DK Mountain is just amazing. Still one of my favorite courses in the entire series. But what can possibly top it? Have you been keeping track? Am I finally going to publish a long-form video? Jesus Christ! Let's find out. Koopa Cape is everything I could want out of a Mario Kart track. The track design, visuals, music, fun factor, speed, everything is just perfectly tuned to create this brilliant concoction of a racing track. While it might start slightly slow with a cliff jump into a road with some tight corners and some Goombas, as soon as you make the turn and trick jump into the river, the track kicks into maximum overdrive and doesn't let up. Speeding down the river while nailing trick jumps and precisely drifting around the various tight corners brings a thrill that few tracks can. Combine this with the insane speed you get from the rapidly flowing river, and you got yourself an incredibly fun and fast section. But it doesn't end there, as you fall into an underwater tunnel with spinning electric bars that can shrink you if you aren't careful. Then there's a section with more spinning bars, but also a stream of water in the center that can give you a serious boost of speed if you can manage to keep the cart there without flying off or getting shrunk. Lastly, there's one last corner where you can use a mushroom through a lake of water to save some time, as well as a trick ramp, finishing up the course. The course looks fantastic, with the underwater tunnel section being a real highlight with the amazing little attentions to detail like the eels, cheeps, pipes, etc. It looks great. The music is also very fun and lively, being suitably upbeat what with the speed and frantic nature of the course, yet also having a gentler, more tropical side to it show up from time to time, specifically when you go underwater, which makes for a nice contrast. Koopa Cape is just a blast from start to finish. Few tracks in any kart racer, let alone this game, can manage to feel this fast yet this fun at the same time. An amazing track, and my favorite in Mario Kart Wii. Oh my god, did you actually watch all of this? Oh, didn't think you get this. Well, okay, so, welcome to the end. That went to go well, didn't it? If you watched this far, then I sincerely appreciate you for watching me chat out of my ass for 45 minutes. If you're interested in perhaps hearing more, how about subscribing, liking the video, following me on Twitter? OnlyFans. I have started a podcast with a good friend of mine, and while the audio quality isn't the best in our first episode, we still put a pretty decent amount of time into it, so we'd appreciate if you can at least check it out for even just a few minutes to see if it's your thing. Future episodes will work on improving production quality, of course, but at least we've made a start. As for what's next, time will tell. I have a review planned of the Ratchet & Clank 2016 game versus its 2002 original that has been in limbo for a few years now that I might finally finish before the next Ratchet game releases, so hopefully that pans out alright. And past that, I have a ton of ideas for content I want to make, but that's for the future and not something I want to disclose right now. And that's really it, so thank you for watching, and for sticking it right to the end. I really do appreciate it. Till next time.
Thank you so much for watching my video.